Welcome to 0.24%, the podcast where black and overlooked founders get heard. So if you're building and fighting to be seen, this is for you. Season 1 out now. Welcome back to 0.24%, the podcast where we shine a light on the founders, investors, and organizations working to level the playing field in entrepreneurship. As many of you know, in 2024, black founders received just 0.02% of venture capital investment here in the UK. And that shocking statistic is a reflection of a wider issue. Underrepresented founders across all backgrounds consistently face barriers to funding, networks, and opportunity. Today's guest is someone who knows those barriers personally, and she's building one of the tools designed to break them down. Judy Leung is the founder and CEO of Sweqlink, a platform that connects entrepreneurs with talented individuals willing to invest their skills and expertise in exchange for equity, what's known as sweat equity. By doing so, Sweqlink help founders without capital build strong, committed teams, making them far more investable and giving their ideas the fighting chance they deserve. Now, full disclosure, Judy is also a friend of mine, which makes this conversation extra special because I get to ask her some of the questions I've not actually asked her previously. From discovering HTML back in 1999 to winning the Innovate UK Women in Innovation Award. Also, tackling bias head-on as a woman of Chinese descent in the startup world. Judy doesn't just represent the underrepresented, she's building the infrastructure that could change the numbers for good. So, let's dive in. Hey Judy, welcome to 0.24%. Now, you don't just represent underrepresented founders, you're also building a tool that could shift these numbers. And before we dive in, how do you introduce yourself and Sweqlink today?
Do you mean my 60-second pitch?
Go for it, Judy.
No, normally if I'm networking or something, I will just say, hi, I'm Jude. I'm founder of Sweqlink. We are the sweat equity talent platform, and we help very early stage founders find work for equity talent while giving talent the opportunity to share in the future success of those companies that they help to build today. And this year I won the Women in Innovation Award. So that's kind of my intro there.
You know, if I had one of those applause machines, I would have that playing now, but I don't. Give me a few more podcasts and I'll try and...
Can edit that in, right?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay, so going way back, looking back to 1999 when you first discovered HTML, did you know it would shape your future this much?
No, to be honest. So way back in 1999, I was in my final year at university. I was studying three-dimensional design at MMU. And it's just like my brother was studying business IT, and he came to me and he said, oh, Jude, look at this. This is so cool. And he showed me what he was learning in terms of coding, which was the HTML coding. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. It fascinated me, the way that you could use lines of text and numbers to create this hugely visual, graphical experience. So I self-taught myself how to build websites. I learned how to code in HTML back in those days. But at the time, it was kind of just fascination, curiosity, and having fun, really, doing something that I really enjoyed. So I didn't know that it would eventually lead into the career that I did.
So when you left uni, because you also studied art, so was it art or creative design, or you went to some prestigious university for art? Which one was it again?
So I went to Central St. Martin's, which is quite a well-known and, I guess, a famous school for art.
Prestigious.
I went there before I went to university.
So from leaving university, you went to work for an agency. And with these big brands, what do they teach you about opportunity and bias?
Interesting question. When I went to work for the agencies, I was, I guess, exposed to a lot of different kinds of projects, all kinds of businesses, and I worked with all kinds of people. In terms of bias, I mean, I was quite often the only female in the agencies that I worked for because what we were doing was so technical. And even when I started my role at these agencies, I came on board as an account manager and then more into project management. And I never saw myself as a technical project management manager. In the early days, I would almost kind of tell myself I'm not technical enough because my background was always creative. But actually then as the years went by, I learned more and more being exposed to working with developers, and I picked up the tech, and I was able to explain very complicated solutions, etc., to the clients. Then I started to realize that actually, yeah, you know what, I am technical. So I guess some of the challenges that we had was like more mindset and being in an environment that was very predominantly male.
So working in a predominantly male environment, Judy, how did you cope? How did you feel? Were there moments when you thought, I need to be twice as good as my male colleagues, or did you have any issues at all that supercharged you to overperform?
I would say not really, to be honest. I knew I was good at my job, so I didn't feel like I had to work twice as hard. And perhaps I was kind of lucky in that my teammates didn't see me as she's a woman kind of thing and treat her different. They treated me like one of the team, and they respected that I was good at my job. I think that was the main thing that I noticed really, is that within the people I worked with anyway, was that if you were good at your job, they really respected you because of that, and it didn't matter whether you were a male or a female. So I guess I was kind of lucky that I just happened to find those kind of roles where there wasn't that kind of bias from the top level.
Okay. And I mean, you worked in London and then you came up to the northwest. Do you think that there's a cultural difference between being based down south and being based more here in the northwest in terms of bias or opportunity?
I have definitely noticed in the past few years since I've been a founder that there are some inequalities in terms of access to finance and building a network. Have found that it's almost easier to build my network down south than it is here. And perhaps it's just because of the amount of communities up north compared to what's down south. Everything just seems to be sort of bigger down south. So when you go to events, there's more opportunities to build a bigger network. Whereas up here, you go to an event, and most of the time you already know everyone that's in the room.
No, that's true. No, so would you say that being up north, there's less opportunities to build and scale your network than there is down south? And if that is the case, then are you suggesting that most of us spend more time down south, or how can we improve the networking within the Northwest?
So I would definitely always recommend that if you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to advance your career or whatever it is that you're aiming to do, that you do build your network and don't stick to just local events, like expand your horizons.
Okay. I mean, that's one of the things that I've found kind of frustrating over the years, in that if you, as you said, want to extend your network, but you do have to go down south to these larger events, to these networking events, or to these conferences. And I found it disappointing, the lack of events of that caliber within the Northwest. And as you said, when you do go to events in the Northwest, they're so small that you probably know most people there anyway. So that's one of the things that I found frustrating about networking in Manchester and Liverpool. Speaking about your latest venture, Sweqlink, what was the moment when you realised sweat equity wasn't just for you, that it could be a platform for others as well?
So the origin story of Sweqlink, which I've not kept a secret, was that it came from my brother. It wasn't my idea. And that was based on his own former experience of being a founder and building something where he needed the capital, he needed the talent and the expertise and the network in order to scale that thing. And how he made that happen was obviously through offering equity to people that he couldn't afford to bring on financially. So he wanted to build this platform. In terms of how I came about and how I came into this was more from a talent perspective. So I was brought on to almost rescue, actually, Sweqlink, which was an idea which was, I wouldn't say failing, but it was failing to get off the ground when I came aboard. And I came in and I brought my skills, my expertise, and helped build it, launch it, get its first few customers. So I'm actually coming from it from a talent perspective. And that's when I thought, right, okay, so I've earned, let's say, 50% of this business. What does that actually mean? What could it actually lead to? And having had no prior experience in how startups like this work, I had to learn all that. And I thought, if you want to encourage more people to invest sweat equity, they need to know all this. They need to know the risks that are involved. They need to know realistically what that journey looks like for any startup. So that's why in the past kind of year and a half, we've really doubled down on educating talent and building a support system for talent. From the founder perspective, it's interesting because I obviously have experienced the issues that founders face. But that's only through having to try and build Sweqlink itself. So if I hadn't gone down, if I hadn't joined Sweqlink, if I hadn't decided to take a chance on this platform, I wouldn't have that problem.
Oh, I mean, I've always used sweat equity as a means to bring people on board. And it's amazing how many people don't actually think about sweat equity until they're in a position whereby they think, oh, how can I build my team? I've got no money. I'm bootstrapping. And for a lot of people, then that's where it ends. They stop. Investors say, come back when you have a team. Founders say, we can't hire a team without investment. So from your perspective, how does Sweqlink break that catch-22 situation?
Well, what you described there is obviously that catch-22 situation. So we help founders by effectively connecting them with the talent that are interested in these kind of startup. They are effectively investment opportunities for the talent. But what we're really trying to solve in this space is getting it right and getting people to set it up correctly so that they don't make mistakes, or they don't, make decisions very early on that could seriously impact the life of their startup, or jeopardize their business much further down the line. And that's one of the biggest problems that we see in working for Sweat Equity. Quite often people bring someone on board and it's kind of a handshake agreement. There's no proper contracts in place. There's no vesting schedules, which means obviously you earn that equity according to milestones or the time that's been given. So consequently, if that relationship breaks down, that could destroy your company. You're shaking your head like you know from experience, Mike.
Oh, Judy, if Sweqlink, it should have been around 10 years ago. I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. It is a problem. People think, oh, just getting someone to say, yeah, I'll work on your business without legal framework in place or without some kind of a legally binding agreement, it just leads to problems further downstream, and it's something that I know from my own personal journey. It's I've always thought that Sweqlink was a great platform, and it's one of the reasons why we're speaking today, because I believe that when you are a bootstrapping founder, one of the biggest expenditures is salary. But you need individuals, you need team members to allow you to scale your business. But if you can't afford the salaries, then how do you get that talent to join your startup? And with your company, Sweqlink, there's a solution. But it also has the framework that protects the talent, but it also protects the founder as well. And I think that's really important going forward. You've mentioned that being a founder, that's one, it's affected, and being a founder and also being the founder of Sweqlink, then you've experienced the problem yourself. So do you think that there's been any kind of bias in your investment journey, or do you think that you just haven't spoken to the right people at the moment?
I'm the kind of person that I guess likes to see the positive of every experience, kind of thing. So I have had questions from potential investors, which there's a phrase that they call it where, the questions that you get asked as a woman are different from the questions that you would get asked if you're a man, type thing. So with a woman, it's always kind of like, well, how are you going to stop this from happening? How are you going to prevent this from happening? So in my case, I was asked like, well, when you stick your head up above the parapet, how are you going to stop the big boys from, getting in on the business essentially and taking everything, all the market away? Whereas for men, it's more kind of like, well, how big can you make it, sort of thing. Yeah. So I have had those questions, and I would like to think that whoever this person was that asked me, which I won't obviously say name, would ask the same sort of questions, whether it was a male or a female founder. I don't know whether it's true, but I would like to think that.
Well, I mean, that's staying positive, and I think as a founder, we have to stay positive, because we hear so many times no, that if we allowed those no's to fester, we would never wake up in the morning and seek out the next investor. One of the things about being a bootstrapping founder is that we, for whatever reason, we don't have an extensive network. So how does Sweqlink, or does Sweqlink, provide insights into how founders can extend their networks and or money?
Well, I like to share, I guess, what I learn and how I go about things, so that passing on that experience and that knowledge. So in a way, Sweqlink through me, I guess, offers some insights in that sense. We do have resources on our blog which shares information about building a startup company, covers loads of general topics as well as ones that are really much more specific to working with sweat equity.
So it seems as though sharing information is really important to you, Judy. Taking what you've learned and sharing that with founders that are starting out on their journey. How important is that to you?
It's very important. I have relied on the knowledge and experience from founders before me. So I think it's equally important that you pass that knowledge on and you feed that back as well. I mean, it doesn't cost you a lot to do that, so why wouldn't you?
And in terms of the mindset and having the ability to want to share that information, how important is that to you as well? Because you have some people who want to keep things to themselves and they have a closed mindset, and then you have people who have an open mindset and they want to share all the time. I mean, how important is having that open mindset to you as well?
Personally, I enjoy sharing my knowledge and my experience and stuff. I'm also very mindful that it is very specific to me, and I don't want to come across as I'm advising people to take a certain route, etc. Because ultimately, each person's own personal circumstances and the journey that they're going through and their background and everything all has an impact on it. Unless we're talking to Judy Leung, the clone or something. My advice might not be, or my experience might not apply to them. But I think just by sharing what I've gone through or what I'm going through, the challenges and stuff, just helps to maybe inspire other people who are perhaps thinking about going into entrepreneurship or building their own platform or marketplace. So if by sharing those experiences I can help those people, then I'm happy to do that.
And you mentioned inspiring people, Judy. Something very special happened last week. Last week, Judy, you were honoured by having a plaque presented to your former secondary school, and hopefully that plaque is going to inspire the next generation of female founders. How did you feel about that?
It felt quite surreal. I knew obviously there's some planning beforehand to arrange for the plaque to go on, and organising the event with the school, but then until you actually turn up and you see the plaque physically mounted there in pride of place as well on the school, it was quite emotional. Yeah. I think I had to take a moment just to, like, it's a kind of, yeah, I think it's just important as well in general that you do take moments to celebrate and recognize those kind of achievements.
No, definitely. I mean, because we see plaques throughout our lives, on, Darwin or real notable people, and then
And then there's me.
and then there's you. I mean, it's so surreal, but so well deserved because what we do is hard, and I think that if you're outside of the bubble, yes, life is hard, but when you're trying to build a business, it's really difficult. And to actually win an award from Innovate UK is even more difficult. So well done for that. And when you did win the award from Innovate UK, how did you feel? And how has it changed not only your life but the direction of Sweqlink?
So how did I feel? It was, I definitely had tears in my eyes when I opened that email. And part of it also was because initially, I don't know if you remember, initially Innovate were only going to award half of what they had ended up awarding. So they have awarded 50 of these grant recipients. And so the first email that I actually got from Innovate was to say that I was unsuccessful. And at that point, I was, what am I going to do? Don't know now. But I thought, okay, I was actually on holiday at the time, and I just shut my laptop, said the kids, right, we're going to the beach. I'll deal with it when I get back. And then when I got back, I got the email to say, actually, we're awarding 25 more recipients, so, and you were one of them. And then I was just like, wow, yeah.
And how did that change? Well, first of all, how did it change your mindset? How did it change you, your family, and how did it change the direction of Sweqlink? Because I know that people say, oh, money does matter. Money does matter. So how did that affect you?
Well, so family-wise, obviously super made up. My daughter was so proud of me. She kept saying, can I tell my school? Can I tell my classmates and everything? I was like, no, you can't, because we're still under embargo. So she couldn't say anything for a while. But in terms of the difference that it's made, of course, the grant itself was hugely important. It's allowed us to take what is just essentially almost like a niche advertising platform, and now we're actually building the technology to help facilitate those conversations between two potential partners. So that's what that grant has allowed us to do. But I think the press that's come with it, and the fact that you can say that you're a Women in Innovation awardee, has actually really opened a lot of conversations, and it's much easier for me to I guess have just really allowed, it made it a lot easier to open doors and have conversations with potential partners.
Okay, and did you find that when you were writing the bid that you were also solidifying the direction that you wanted to go? This was going to be a roadmap that you could follow as well.
So in terms of writing the bid, yes, it really, the level of detail that you have to put into the grant application, it really forces you to think about the next 12 months, which is the length of a project. Everything from your costs, like every cost, you know, who you're going to hire, what you're going to outsource, all the way down to how much are you going to spend on travel. So even looking at that minute detail to maximize the grant, essentially.
You know, I remember speaking to you about the grant and about you were disappointed when that initial tranche of money was released, and there was everyone kicked off on social media. There were so many people that were complaining about the process, the fact that Innovate were not going to distribute the amount of money that they had promised. Was that something that you got involved in?
I would be lying if I said I didn't. But yeah, of course, as soon as I heard it, I thought it was really unjust. If you promise something, then especially obviously being such a huge, a huge player in innovation and this specific award about championing women, then I felt like, yeah, you have to keep to your word. So I did post about it. I did post the fact that I got, I think it was something like, it was over 86% in my grant application to make people realize that, you know, yeah, it's not easy to get these grants, but surely when you're scoring that high a score on an application, that it should be considered.
And I think it would be safe to say that if there hadn't have been that group of individuals, male and female, that protested on social media, I don't think Innovate would have actually released the next tranche of investment. What do you think?
For sure, that if there wasn't the massive press around it, because it got picked up by press. It started off on social media, but then it got picked up by press. That, yeah, it would just have gone. It just wouldn't have come about.
Moving on to being a founder, and not necessarily about Sweqlink. The journey of a founder is long. The journey of a founder can be very lonely sometimes. And even though we do have friends, family, and outside interests, how do you cope with the loneliness of building? Because it is lonely. When people say, "Oh, hey Judy, how's Sweqlink doing?" we know that they just want, "Yeah, we're doing well," and then we move on to the next subject. They don't really want the in-depth discussion that you may want to actually share with them. So how do you cope with the loneliness of building?
I guess I am lucky in that I have a really good support network. I have some individuals that I really trust and that I can speak to, and yeah, I think that's just something that's absolutely vital if you're going to go on this journey and be a startup founder and build a business, that you also create that support system, because it obviously doesn't just go. The support isn't just for your mental health and like someone to talk to and getting you through those hard times. You need the support to actually help you with other day-to-day things like normal life activity and life admin and stuff, because building your business is just all-consuming.
Except when the 6 week holidays comes along. or the Easter holidays or Christmas. How do you cope when you have such a small young family? Juggling their needs and the needs of being a founder.
I try to plan to have at least, well, usually it ends up being about a week of a proper holiday where we actually get away from the usual environment. And I'm not near a computer. But yeah, the rest is having that support system. Being able to lean on grandparents, my husband being able to have some flexibility in his work to be able to do things with the kids as well.
That's one thing that I found as a founder. I love my kids, but I love school. School gave me the opportunity to work from 9 till 4, 5 days a week, without having to think about feeding the children or looking after their needs. So yeah, school, love the place. 6 weeks holidays and other holidays, again, when they came around, again, you need a support network whereby friends, family can chip in and can step in when they need to. But again, it's important to enjoy the journey, and family and children are part of the journey. And I'm lucky that I never had to sacrifice one or the other. I had my time focused on the business, but then during the holidays, because of the support network, I could also focus on the kids and enjoy the time with them, because you never get those back. Right now, your son and daughter, they're at an age whereby they actually want to spend time with you. That won't always be the case, Judy. There'll be a time, as I know, with my youngest being 19, whereby they just enjoy being away from you. So it's important to spend that time at that young age where they actually do like you and they actually do want to spend time with you. And sometimes it's a case of, I gotta get this done, gotta get this done. But like you say, when you have people that you can turn to, it helps. It's essential. It's essential. It's essential. I've always been an underrepresented founder, and I've always had no cash. So when someone like me comes to you, Judy, what's the first thing they need to do?
So in terms of how we can help founders, which I explained, I mean, it's really easy to sign up, and we've made our pricing super founder friendly. But there are things that I would say you can do to help yourself before you sign up to us. And those are things like actually having a business plan and actually thinking through what kind of talent you're looking for and what you need. But yeah, I mean, if you go through that process and you can articulate your vision and your business plan, sign up to our platform. We charge like a really small fee to essentially advertise and promote your opportunity out to talent who are actively interested and looking for startup opportunities.
One thing I'd like to ask is, you mentioned business plan. Is that 1 page, 2 page? Because has the business plan now morphosized into a pitch deck, or are the business plan and the pitch deck two different things?
It's two different things. So your pitch deck is really, it's almost like a sales deck for investment. That is to get you to a meeting. That's to get you a meeting in front of investors or partners or clients. that's your pitch deck. But your business plan is obviously something that's a lot more thought out, a lot more detailed.
Because I think that a lot of founders, they have this great idea and they think, oh, I just need to do a pitch deck. And I think a lot of founders don't actually do the work of building a business plan. And the business plan, in one sense, it seems to be old hat, not necessary. But I still believe that the business plan still has a place, especially for startups, whereby you can do the hard thinking and get it documented. Because I believe that once you have it documented, it forms the base of a roadmap, and it solidifies your ideas as well. And you can share it with an individual, and they can look at that and they can say, okay, I agree with that. That's a good point. But you could maybe look at this area here. And I think that a lot of founders don't actually spend enough time building a 10, 15-page business plan. And I think that with the age of AI, a lot of founders will probably type a prompt into ChatGPT or Gemini and then expect them to reproduce a business plan which they can say, yep, I've done my business plan. And I think that's a big mistake now that we're living in the AI era. What do you think, Judy?
I agree. I think there's probably far too much reliance on AI to churn out those documents. In terms of, I guess, the format of a business plan, yeah, it could be a written Word document type thing, but it doesn't have to be. You could use something like the business model canvas. The main thing is that you have your revenue models, you have your go-to-market strategy. So that's your plan, essentially. So if whatever way you choose to document it, I think that you need to be confident that you can execute it.
And I think that when people talk about using AI, I think a lot of them, they just rely on the fact that AI has printed out this document which they think they can just read and then they can just send off to a prospective investor, or they can share with a prospective team member. But I think you actually need to actually formulate the plan in your head first of all, and then using some of these tools, like you say, we can map out your idea and then have those ideas in some kind of a document that you can look back on and you can update or amend or tweak, because it's always a case of revision. You're always revising your ideas. Nothing is fixed in stone. People pivot all the time based on new ideas, discussions with other people. And I think people need to just be, I was one of those that I had a fixed idea, and the idea of pivoting because of discussions or changes in the market were, oh God, I can't pivot. But I think pivoting is just taking on board new information and, realizing that new information into your products. And I think it's really important that sometimes when you do need to pivot, that you're not saying to yourself, no, I can't, I'm failing if I pivot. You're not. You're taking on board additional information, additional advice, so that you've got a better chance of succeeding, because too many of us fail. And we fail because of many different reasons. It's really important to understand and know your product inside out, so that when people do speak to you, the way that I'm speaking to you now, you can talk about Sweqlink, and you can. There's no question that I can ask you that is going to trip you up, because you know your product, and you've had many of these discussions before. So it's really important that people don't just use AI just to try and fake it till you make it. You really do need to take the time and build out your own ideas rather than just using these AI platforms. You've had doubts, Judy. We've all had doubts. How do you push through?
Just like any other founder, I think it's normal to have those doubts. I guess I tell myself it's a sign that I'm growing, and if I didn't have these doubts creep in, then there's something probably wrong, because it's almost it's a bit of a warning system, isn't it, really? Having doubts makes you take a step back and look at things again, or look at things in more detail if you need to. So I think having doubts is really important, but then to get through it is recognizing that it's a natural part of the process, and it's kind of designed to make you reassess or make you focus on areas that you need to.
So don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the doubts. Just kind of ask yourself, what's it saying?
And I think that's really important, in that we all have those conversations within ourselves. But I think it's really important to not also be our own blockers. I can't do this. Well, why can't you do that? Oh, because I don't think I can. There's enough people out there telling us we can't do things without telling ourselves that we can't do these things. So have the doubts, but also learn how to use those doubts and to question yourself and to come out the other side. And as I said previously, if you had assumptions on there, they've been proven to be incorrect. Well, we can all make mistakes. Just change. Pivot.
Yeah. It's learning, isn't it? It's an opportunity to learn.
I mean, what do they say? When we fail, we learn. And if you fail again with the same issues, then you obviously haven't learnt the lesson from the first time. Many of us hope that we learn the lessons the first time, but sometimes we do the same mistake again. It's maybe not as clear cut as the first time, but where we waste money buying a product, we say to ourselves, "I'm not going to do that again," and then a similar product comes along, or a different product comes along, and you think, "Oh, I need that." I mean, so there's different ways in which we learn, but we don't always learn from the first time. And I remember someone saying to me once, "Mike, if we'd given you £500,000, you'd probably have blown it by now. So this bootstrapping that you've had to do is probably good for you." I thought to myself, "You're joking." It's been so hard bootstrapping. I think bootstrapping founders, when we do get a bit of money, it's so hard to spend. I mean, how are you finding spending the award that you've had from Innovate? I mean, as a bootstrapping founder, have you found it difficult?
Well, because when you put in that application, the level of detail that you have in terms of where every penny is going is accounted for. So I wouldn't say I've found it difficult to spend that money, because it's been determined. There's a plan for it, and every penny is accounted for and has to be accounted for when you're reporting back to Innovate. But yeah, I mean, I have heard stories where people have raised a sum of investment and they've just blown it all on whatever, which seems like they didn't really have a plan for the money in the first place, which I find really baffling. They pluck a figure out the air in terms of what they need to raise, and then they go out, raise it, blow it all on whatever, hiring too fast, etc. And I don't understand founders and investors like that.
Show me those investors. Show me those investors, Judy, that give money to someone, a founder who doesn't know what he's going to spend it on. It's. I mean, I've decided, and I think I was saying this to you before, that where we are at the moment, we're focused on building traction, and to do that, you need a team, and once we've grown to a certain level of traction, then we can actually start to go out there and find investment, because if you go to an investor without those milestones or without that traction in place, you're less likely to actually get any responses. And if you do, then the amount of equity that you're probably going to have to sell to that investor would probably be a lot higher than if you had better traction. And so for me now, it's about, let's get customers, let's get some revenue, and let's get some users. And if we can do that with volunteers or with people working on equity, then that's the way we should go. That's the way we should go. And I think that platforms like Sweqlink or the only platform, which is Sweqlink, are really important for founders that are looking to build in this economy. Because in this economy, getting investment is really, really difficult if you don't have a team and if you don't have traction. And I think that's one of the USPs of Sweqlink. Would you like to elaborate on that, Judy?
I don't think I need to. You've done a fantastic job of pitching us. Thank you very much.
No, but seriously, I mean, in this economy, it's investors, they want more proof. Yeah. 2 years ago, you could give them, so they say, a napkin with an idea and people would invest in it. A year and a half ago, you may have had an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they want MVP, they want customers, they want revenue, they want a team that's built to grow. And it seems as though that seed round has disappeared from investment.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's really, in terms of pre-seed, there's no real pre-seed investment anymore. It's not pre-seed if you have a product and you have paying customers and you have revenue, is it?
No. It used to be that you had this great idea, you had an MVP, and you needed some pre-seed money that allowed you to validate and to validate your assumptions. And that round seems to have disappeared. And even angel syndicates that you would presume were set up to invest at that very early stage, even a lot of those syndicates are not interested in pre-seed or even seed. And they are looking to invest in founders and platforms that have the potential to be unicorns or to be, $300 million revenue companies. What happened to investing in a company that could potentially deliver 10, 20, 30 million pounds revenue per year? What happened to supporting, or are they lifestyle businesses? I mean, what's happened to that group of investors, Judy?
You're asking the wrong person. I don't know, because if I knew that, But I guess this is one of the gripes that I have with the Manchester ecosystem, is even the angels here are very much driven by the VC narrative. So they are looking for that company that would at least 10x, your investment, and they want you to go on to raise VC. But I found in terms of my network that down south, there's a lot more people who are interested in micro investing. So they are more kind of looking for probably like 3-5x return on their investment. And a lot of them are more impact driven. So they're investing in the businesses that are building a future that they want to see.
Rather than just using or trying to bet on which are less frequent, the so-called unicorns and the 10x companies, and I think that's one of the reasons why the investment scene in Manchester is as poor as it is. I mean, people are talking about Manchester being a really vibrant place for investment. Who for? Who for? I see people based in Manchester having to go to America to get investment. Yet we're still being told the narrative of Manchester as a great, vibrant place for investment, and I personally don't see that. And I probably don't spend enough time, or I don't waste my time. Depends which way you want to look at it. Trying to get that investment in Manchester, So it's something that it's very contentious for me in terms of investment in Manchester and angel investors. It's a subject that I suppose it's one of the reasons why I've invested my time in this podcast 0.24%, because even though we're talking about venture capital in terms of that 0.24%, the amount of investment from angels isn't that much better. So I have an issue with the Manchester investment scene, both with VCs and also with angels as well. Do you find, or have you found on your investment journey, that female investors are more sensitive to the needs of female founders? Or do they invest along the same lines as their male counterparts?
I would say that there are definitely a lot of female investors who are very much aligned with investing more into female founders because, they want to address that imbalance. And I think it's not only do we need more investment going into female founders, but we also need more female investors to be able to address that whole imbalance. I'm personally also very mindful that we need to encourage more male investors to invest in women as well, because we can't be relying on educating more women to get into investing to solve this problem alone.
Yeah, we need allies. We need investors, full stop, to realise that diverse, underrepresented founders, we bring a lot to the table. And I think it's been proven that diverse teams perform better than teams that are not representative of the makeup of the UK. And I think that that's something that we need to amplify, to let people know we are a good investment. We're not asking for favours. We're just asking to be treated fairly. And just look at the stats. Look at the statistics. Look at the number of startups that are run by underrepresented founders, and compare those to other similar platforms, other similar startups, and see how we perform. Because for investors, surely it's about how can I amplify my wealth? How can I invest money into an organization so that I can make more money? And if we can prove that investing your money into a team led by women or a team led by a black founder is going to generate more wealth for you, then what is stopping you from taking that leap?
Yes, I think that's a great question.
Okay, so we're drawing towards the back end of our session, Judy. And in 5 years' time, where do you see Sweqlink and yourself?
Can I say I hate questions like that?
Come on, you must have had, when you sat there in the quiet and you're thinking, why am I doing all of this? You must have ideas of, why am I doing this? Why am I not spending all of my time with my kids? Why am I having to work late into the night? Why am I having to get on the train to London and travel down there and spend a night in a grotty hotel? Well, not necessarily a grotty hotel. Why do I have to do the things I have to do? And it's all with a goal. I mean, let's rephrase this. What are your goals for the next 5 years, Judy?
Well, our plans are to go global, take Sweqlink international. There's lots of emerging ecosystems around the world who would benefit from what we're building. So we want to take what we've built here and expand it into other ecosystems. I think personally, for me, I would love to, in 5 years, be at a point where I'm not hustling so hard and I can focus on the things that I really enjoy doing, knowing that I have this fantastic team that is running everything for me. So I can focus on the strategic stuff rather than trying to do the day-to-day as well as the strategic.
Okay. So you've mentioned things about the business, but personally, what can Sweqlink allow you to do? What freedom is it going to give you in terms of its success? So put aside that you want to expand globally and that you have a team that will be able to manage and run the business. What do you hope Sweqlink will be able to give you on a personal level?
On a personal level, of course, I would love to have financial freedom, essentially. That is the ultimate goal.
Don't be ashamed of it, Judy. Don't be ashamed of it. It's
I want money. Yeah, right?
But I mean, I know that's not the reason why you're doing this, but I think as founders, we shouldn't be ashamed of saying that we want that financial freedom, because that financial freedom allows us to do a lot of the personal things. It's the reason why we're making the sacrifices now. So don't be ashamed, Judy. Financial freedom. Go on, take it away.
Yeah, financial freedom, so that I can do the things that I love to do without having to worry about paying a mortgage off or, paying for my kids' education, that kind of thing. But for me, importantly as well, and this is the reason why I really believe in sweat equity, is that I want to be able to make that difference, not just for me, but for the people who have invested sweat equity with me. So the people who have worked for equity for Sweqlink.
And I think that's really important, the fact that you're still thinking about other people rather than just focusing on yourself. And that just fits into the value base of Sweqlink. And I think that's one of the reasons why you will be and you are successful, Judy. I'm going to do a quick fire round. take a couple of seconds to have a think?
Okay, this was a surprise.
Okay, so quick fire round. One book or podcast that shaped your thinking?
That Will Never Work. The story of Netflix.
Oh, right. Okay, now, is that a book that you've actually read?
Yes.
What made you read it? Because I know that you've got various different books, and you've started off and you've not quite finished some of them. But what made you finish this book?
I think it was, first of all, really well written, and it was told from the founder's perspective as well. So it really, I think I love stories of how, these massive companies that we recognize today, how they started, because it shows you what's possible.
Yes. Because they all start small. Every big company started with an idea and started small and grew from there. A quote or mantra that you live by?
So a kind of mantra that I live by is to live life without any regrets. And that, I think, helps me make some of the most difficult decisions in my life. And believe it or not, that was what made me decide to have kids.
Oh, okay.
Because honestly, I could do with or without kids.
You know what? I think it's one of the reasons why they say do it while you're young. Because when you're young and foolish and you have no fear, kids don't come into the equation. It's only once we actually start to get a little bit of sense and start to, think of our own self that we realise that maybe kids are a way in which we can manifest ourselves in a different form and make them better, make ourselves better.
I'm not sure I agree with that, Mike. I think they're their own individual characters.
Yeah, but when you have kids, didn't you think, because they are genetically half of you and half of Rich, and yeah, their personalities are different, but they're our kids, and we want some of ourselves to be in them. I mean, I look at my daughters and I think, I can see myself in you. I can definitely see myself in you. And unfortunately, I can see myself in you, So with that in mind, does that not play out with you?
It's nice to recognise some qualities, of both myself and Rich and our kids, but it wasn't why we decided to have kids.
So why did you decide?
I told you I didn't want to live a life with regrets, and I knew that if I didn't have kids, I would regret that. And it would be too late to do anything about it, when I'm older, when I realised that I regretted that decision. So, it was that made me, because I knew we would never regret having kids, but we would possibly regret not having kids.
Okay. And obviously that's a personal decision that you made, because there are thousands or founders out there that have made the decision not to have kids, and they're perfectly happy, and they're not regretting that, So these are all personal stories, and it's not to say that having kids is better than not having kids and so forth, So just want to make that perfectly clear, because like you, Judy, I decided that we wanted to have children. They were going to be a continuation of my ancestry, and I wanted to leave a mark on the world by having these fantastic kids that can contribute towards moving this planet forward. And with their brilliance, anything's possible. Okay, your quick fire round, continue. Penultimate question. Your go-to mood-lifting song when you need a boost?
So right now, because of my kids, I'm listening to K-pop Demon Hunters.
Oh, gosh, Judy, are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I like it. I thought as a movie it was brilliant.
You know what? I've seen it, and I thought, because at one point it was the number one program on Netflix, and I thought, no, I can't see that, and I've not watched it.
How can you judge it without having watched it?
I know. You know what? I'm going to give it a go, because my son, he likes. Is it a kind of anime?
Yeah.
My son likes anime, and he's always trying to get me to watch anime, and I think I've been. Some of the anime that I've watched previously was the big eyes and the traditional anime, and that's not a genre that I like. But I think this particular styling is a little bit different. So I'm gonna take your word on this one, Judy, and I'm gonna watch it with my son. It'll make him happy if he hasn't watched it already. Okay, and finally, where can listeners connect with you and follow your work?
So I am very active on LinkedIn. They can just search for Judy Leung, or they can follow at Sweqlink across LinkedIn or Instagram.
And with that, I'd like to say thank you to my friend for coming and spending a few minutes talking through Sweqlink and sharing her journey with you, the audience. And it's always a pleasure to speak to Judy. We don't meet up that often because she's very busy. And I think that's one of the things about being a founder is it's difficult taking personal time to spend with other founders that are building as well. It's a massive thank you to Judy. There's many takeaways that I'm going to take from this, and I hope the audience do as well. If you want to build a successful business in this economy, you need a team. And if you don't have the resources to pay for a team, don't give up. Reach out. Sweqlink is there to help propel your business. I think there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, build a team. And with that, I'd like to say once again, thank you to Judy. Thank you to you, the audience. And we'll connect next time on 0.24%, the platform that stands up for black and underrepresented founders. And we're looking to change the investment landscape for everyone. Bye.